Good afternoon, or evening, or morning, depending on where you live. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Are You There, Ghost? It's me, Chiwan. Today, I'm so happy to have a dear poet who's just a wonderful human being. Let me read you her bio real quick. Asa Drake is a Filipino American poet and writer in Central Florida. She's the recipient of fellowships and awards from the 92Y Discovery Poetry Contest, Tin House, Idlewild Arts, and VCCA. Her chapbook, One Way to Listen, was selected by Tanum Bambrick as the winner of Gold Line Press's 2021 Poetry Chapbook Contest. Drake is a member of the National Book Critics Circle, with reviews published in the American Poetry Review, Kenyan Review Online, and Library Journal. She received her MFA in poetry from the New School and her MIS from Florida State University. Please welcome the very cool, very awesome Asa Drake. Hello.
Oh,
It's great seeing you. Question. What's the MIS?
a master's in information science. It's the
Ah,
library degree.
got it, got it. I'm like, what is that? I thought it was like Mission Impossible something.
It means I know how to use information, but it's interesting though. Now they have it so that you can do a technology track or the traditional library
Ah,
track. So
okay,
everyone's MIS is different.
got it. How have you been? How's life in Central Florida?
I mean, Florida is being particularly Florida lately, but the weather has been lovely. My neighbors this spring bulldozed down my little property line, so I just put in some new pear trees for the spring, which I'm very excited about. But it's been mostly nice until I
Nice.
look at the news.
How do you, well, because I rarely talk to people who live in Florida. How does one, other than just intentionally avoiding anything that may have news coming at you, how do you navigate through life in Florida in that sense?
I mean, I quit my job last year. I was head librarian for my little local library branch here in Ocala, and I'd worked there for 6 years and I really loved it. But the past few years, I'd say since the pandemic, people's political philosophies have greatly impacted their ability to communicate with others and to be nice and not to make weird comments to me at the desk. Like before, it was funny, weird, and maybe a little misogynistic. Like, have you ever worn a red dress? And I would say, no, I've never worn the color red, which is hilarious because half my closet is red. But the past few years, it's become like very strong questions about wanting to know like how my mom had sex with my father, like in very like direct terminology, and that was a little too much for me. And I
What
took
in
a
the,
break.
what in the, jeez, that just made my head hurt.
I
Oh,
like to
man.
lie oftentimes in response to this. I
Yeah,
often say they chose to do the rather than the seed thing, they did the cloned thing.
yeah, yeah. Are you getting to write it all?
I am. I've written more this past year just since leaving the front desks than I have in the past 3 years.
Hmm.
And I don't recognize, I don't think while I was at the desk, how much the information I was getting from other people was shaping what I was writing, but also kind of shaping the double speak that I do at work, I was doing in my own writing. So there was a lot I wouldn't let myself
Ah,
say. And I think
ah,
that got worse too as when I was on the administrative side, where there's so much where I know that there's a right and a wrong way to answer even crude questions. And I had programmed myself to be so good at answering it in the sweetest way possible, like in the most benign way of saying, "Oh, I all my family is from South Carolina. We have land from before the Revolutionary War," and just like doubling down in this kind of like complete lack of understanding of what they could mean.
ah.
And I've gotten to shed that this past year.
Did it? Is it an ongoing process, or was it immediate when you left there?
Oh, it's definitely ongoing. I think this summer I made a lot of progress. I got to spend some time and make new friends at the Virginia Center for the Creative Arts, which is still the South, but it's a very interesting community. I broke out of the residency a lot because they had very healthy food, which isn't really for me. So I found this pizza bar. And at the pizza bar, there was this realtor named Lynn who would invite us to other bars with other food. All the bars had food. So, like, I had lots of cakes and cannolis, and we went to this blues festival with Lynn, the realtor. And it was just a really nice way to realize that, oh, there are times where people can ask me a question about where I'm from, but it not be something that puts me on the defense. Because Lynn, the realtor, would say, where are you from? I moved here 10 years ago, and like would model this like safe way of
Yeah,
saying, oh, I've been in X, Y, or Z for 10 years. And I just
yeah,
thought that was a beautiful way of reclaiming like Southern hospitality.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Didn't know this about you that you are allergic to healthy food.
I
That
love
you are willing to break
vegetables.
out of places to
I
avoid
grow
healthy
my
food.
own food, but I can't like I was so hungry. VCCA has a wonderful menu selection, but there aren't a lot of carbs, and I need bread or rice or like a lot of pasta at every meal. I need the rice bowl. I need something to like fill up with because I can just eat meat and vegetables. I can go
Yeah.
straight on. I get my money's worth at the all you can eat
Dang.
buffet.
The things I didn't know about you that I'm learning.
Haven't we met at AWP? I do my I have first dinner, second dinner, and then third dinner so I can meet the most people.
I thought
I'll usually let you know if you're third dinner because third dinner I'm a little wobbly.
I
But
think you may have been third dinner. We have this. It's I always crack up when I try to think of the title of this movie that you told me about that I forget all the freaking time. And I'm trying to explain to someone it's about a monster in a jar, a big jar, because I can't think of the word pot. I'm
I
like a
think
big jar. I'm even like drawing it in there, like a big jar. Yeah. Can you tell our listeners about this movie? Because it's
so.
the thing that haunts me the most from a movie that I never heard anybody else talk about before.
Halima Sabanga is a movie that my uncles used to play whenever I visited the Philippines with my cousins, and it's actually a double feature that I refuse to watch again because I'm still scared of the dark, so I don't need to like rehash that experience. I'm
Mm,
still it's imprinted on me. So I'll tell you my 6-year-old memory of
yes.
so there's an archaeological, and you have to remember my Tagalog is really bad, so I don't actually know what people are saying. I can only just tell you what I
Mm,
think is happening with my little bit of store language.
yeah.
So there's an archaeological dig, and someone finds like a classic urn that you put bodies in for burial, and they bring it home because wouldn't this look great in your garden? And so they put it in the garden in the courtyard of this like very classic Filipino home. And there's like the maid who comes in every day, and there's this young lady who might be having a love affair with a man who's not approved of by her parents. I can't quite tell. There's a lot of like she seems to like him, but when other adults come onto the screen, they don't seem to be quite as into him. But whenever it's the end of like one of these scenes where like she's having this amorous relationship with her lover, she'll have like her hand on the pot, and they'll be leaning against it as like a little water feature kind of, and then this little hand will come out and like start to go for her. Now this is the part that's really hard because I don't know where this movie ends and the next movie starts in the double feature. So the way I have internalized that the monster in the pot is defeated is that Filipino Thor comes out of a comic book and summons lightning that I think burns down the whole house. This is not an accurate movie review, but I obviously don't want my house to burn down because I have to like call on Filipino Thor to get rid of this garden feature I've installed. So I have no decorative garden features. There is no bird
No,
fountain,
no big jar.
no
Big
big
jar.
jars, no gnomes. I
Yeah.
like none of it. I am not going to risk bringing home monster in the pot. I don't even have very large pots other than I have my canning pot, but it's small
Yeah.
enough that like it would be a very like I could kick that monster. It's like small enough.
Yeah. I also you bring up an important point. Water features are overrated. That's all I'm gonna say.
They're very hard to maintain. You
Yeah.
invite a lot of like insects in that aren't
Mosquitoes.
necessarily good.
Yeah. 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 So that movie has haunted you your whole life, and it haunts me for the past few years. Where every year I have to like message you and go, "Remember that movie? Which title you already told me many times? What's that title again?" What else haunts you?
I'm
Both
really good at
both
repressing.
literally or metaphorically.
Okay. I can
Yeah.
do like more of the literal better. I'm very good at repressing things, so I feel like I don't like get bothered by my childhood
Like,
as much.
are you like on next level than your run of the mill Asian repression, or just
I think especially since I hit my 30s, like when I was in my 20s, I would like have these bodily memories that really bothered me. In my 30s, like I moved to the middle of nowhere. I like have this tiny piece of land that I do like my little pretend farming on. I feel like really secure, and so I've gotten to like repress a lot of like the things that bothered me when I was younger. But I did when I bought the house here in Florida. It was a really weird situation. I used Actually, no, I probably shouldn't say that because then the government can find out. But anyway, when I bought my house in Florida, the person who sold it to me, she was very attached to it. She didn't want to sell. Her husband was having her move out into like a more rural area. And so she sometimes still comes by and like checks and see how I'm doing, that it's really me in the house, but like I was the person she wanted to give it to. It was a very like direct transaction.
Mhm.
Um, but our my mom's childhood home in the Philippines was taken down at the same time. It was this old colonial house and it had gotten termites, which there's like a lot of like family drama about how that was even possible because it was made of like petrified wood. But anyway, when that house was taken down, actually like started seeing something in my house I couldn't quite recognize. Like the rabbit would thump and like I would like see this woman looking at my wedding photos on the fireplace. And my mom would like called and asked like where the family ghost was, and then she came and visited me. So she now thinks that I have the actual family ghost who may have traveled from the Philippines to Florida.
So as you're buying a house and your mom is tearing down the old house, it just transferred to your house.
That is what people believe has happened. So the old house went to my grandmother's sister's son. And before that it was like my grandmother, my mother and their family had lived there for the longest. So there's a lot of like different feelings about that. The land is still ours, but the house isn't ours anymore, and I think in somewhere in the process the ghost has been given to me. So when people need the ghost, she is here. She's got a lot of backstory. She's apparently known for frightening a lot of people and being very defensive. I've not had any problems with the ghost. Like I was a little nervous at first, but she seems good. She's very good about me being forgetful. I leave my water pot boiling a lot for my tea, and I often come back and it's been turned off. And that is really nice to know that I'm not the only one who is looking at the stove. But also a little embarrassing.
You instead of the ghost scaring you, you're like more embarrassed
I think
by yourself to the ghost.
my mom says that I have the ghost because I need the most help.
Wait, so was it always sort of like a benevolent ghost for your family? No, I
For my
mean,
mom, for my
yeah.
mom, she is like the ghost has interfered on a lot of like terrible things that have nearly happened to my mother.
Ah.
Like uncles who shouldn't be in the house at certain times. The ghost has frightened them off. And so a lot of people have a lot of horror stories about the ghost, but for my mom and the stories I've heard about her, she's just I don't know, she hangs out. She doesn't like for you to run her like she doesn't like running in the house. She's very like strict. So you can't like shout in the house. You
Mhm.
can't run in the house. It's very good to sleep in my house though. Everyone who's ever visited, even if they have insomnia, they like sleep until 11 a.m. the first night that they stay, and they'll usually sleep until like 10:30 all the other days. Even if they're not good
Ah,
sleepers, my house is good for sleeping.
I gotta get down there. I'm
You
not a
should
good
come. You should
sleeper.
feel like the ghostly benevolence of like good sleep.
Wait, did you know about this ghost when you were little,
I
or
remember. So I do remember the ghost. I had one interaction, and I remember
yeah?
I was like a really snotty American kid, so I like didn't believe a lot of stuff. And like I would run up and down the stairs, and my mom would have me come downstairs and apologize to the ghost. But I also like would like to shout the names of monsters, which you're not supposed to do. It makes them mad. And I got
Like what monster names?
like I'm not like specific, but like types. So like I would like shout out for the Manananggal and for like the Aswang. And like I remember like one summer I got really sick, where we ended up having to go to the quack doctor and like have him blow smoke over me because I love that tobacco gets rid of a lot of ghosts. This seems to be very traditional. Like tobacco will get rid
Yeah,
of a lot of
yeah,
things
yeah.
off of you. Things don't like it. But then I had like the string around my stomach and this oil. And then I just got very sick. I have like a fear of cockroaches now, which I know no one likes, but I like had this huge hallucination as a kid of like the cockroaches following me around the house after I had like disobeyed the ghost too many times. I was a much better behaved child after that summer though. So I guess maybe the ghost is child rearing.
She seems like the ghost seems like something that your mom went and bought to help help keep you in line.
It makes sense that she's in this house now to me. Like I just don't question it of like, ah yes.
Wait. Did your mom say the ghost seems to be at your place now, or did your mom say I sent the
She
ghost to you?
She came to confirm that the ghost is here. She did not send the ghost.
Ah,
Like, there are only in the current generation, like, there's always like one person who's really good with like the family spirits. And in my mom's generation, it was her. And my great grandmother before that used to be like the person who was used to working with and like paying attention to like things going on in the house and different feelings that she would get. But it seems in my generation, like my auntie Bernie, my oldest cousin, she will have dreams where she can hear people and she can talk to
mm,
people. And then I'll usually in the next morning, which I don't know how that actually works time zone wise. It's like the same time of like it's like a 12-hour difference. So while she's having this at night in the early morning, I'll wake up and like go to the bathroom and see someone at my kitchen table. But I'm the dumb one, so I can't hear anything. I just she's like the smart like fighty one, and I was supposed to be the beautiful one. So it's like Malakas and Maganda was kind of like how my grandmother cursed the two of us. So she can hear people and I can see people.
you need to team up for an agency or something.
We only work for our own family though, so it's like my
That's
tatai, my
true.
grandfather will come like back and forth and complain to the two of us when he needs people to like clean up the grave or like buy
Yeah,
him new
yeah,
candles and stuff.
yeah. Did you guys did your mom name the ghost, or did
I do not know a name for the ghost, and I'm okay with that. She's like So when I first saw her, I thought she was a white woman wearing an 80s windbreaker and like with curly hair. And my mom was like, "No, she's a lady in white. She's not a white woman." And I'm like, "Well, I'm like describing what I see here." And like she thinks that there's been some wardrobe changes over the years in the translation of Lady in White, and like a lot of this has now been blamed on like my not understanding language that the ghost has had to adapt.
oh my god, the ghost is like this freaking child. Oh, good god.
I don't know what's going to happen if I have kids and how like the ghost will have to transform again to like make sense.
Do you talk? Do you ever talk to the ghost, or like even if it's just to say thank you and stuff for not setting the house on fire?
Don't. I'm like really nervous about it. Sometimes so like I'll sometimes make us switch bedrooms if the ghost like
Mm,
I'll have this feeling of where the ghost will like we'll be watching like a television show, and I'll feel like the ghost touch my thigh or on like my shoulder, and I'll stay in that room as a result. I just don't question the ghost instructions. And so like when I get up in the night to like go pee, I don't look in the normal bedroom because I assume that she has like some housekeeping to do in that room and that I'm not supposed to be involved in, which it's funny. I don't believe in anything, but I'm very superstitious when it comes to like what I feel from my house ghost. I listen to it entirely. I don't talk
Mm,
back. It is like the only family member I'm really obedient to.
wow. Wait, so other than the house in the Philippines and this house you're in now, in the other places you've lived in, have you has not just this ghost but other ghosts like been
Have
around?
I have I told you about the house like I was born into? Like the house in South
No,
Carolina?
you have not.
Okay.
That was
Um
the third dinner, remember?
I can't get rid of this house. There's some sort of estate thing where it's like divided by cousins, and it's been this way for a long time. So I can't sell the land. I can't get rid of it. But the
Mm,
house was built by my grandmother on my father's side, who hated all of her children. Only my mother cared for her while she was dying, and so like it was left to like us to take care of after that, except I'm like scared to go back. But right next to it is the old Muzan mansion, which the Muzans, so
mm.
my father's side is known as like this family that has consistently inbred for generations, and like they have this bright blonde hair and the blue eyes. Like I can't remember, is it Children of the Damned or Children of the Corn where they have the paired
Yeah,
kids? But it's
yeah.
like like that's the aesthetic. And so I'm the only Muzan who doesn't look like that.
Ah,
But there's like my mom would go up to the old house because she likes antiques and because like no one's using it, so she would like get a cute little glass like honey jar with like the glass honey bear and stuff. But she'll tell me stories, and like I was forbidden to go myself, but there was like this cat that would like consistently give birth and eat its own young on like the piano that you could see there all the time. And so there are a lot of these like stories of like not ghost per se, but like a strange haunting of that house where it was just forbidden to me as a result
hmm.
because I'm like, my family's a little mean when they say it, but like I'm considered the weak minded of my family. Like there's something called usog. It's a childhood disease that's like a childhood, like a mental health disease that you can get as a young child in the Philippines. It just means that like you're prone to like the supernatural having a physical effect. It meant I threw up a lot, but like I never outgrew it. So I'm still like an adult who's like 30 with usog when you're supposed to be like 6.
Yeah.
But as a result, like there are a lot of places that feel like there's a bad feeling about it. My mom will tell me I can't go, that I can't physically handle it.
Wow. But you haven't had any reaction like that with the ghost you have now.
No, this one's. I mean, I don't think my mom would like just leave me in this house if it were a bad ghost. I'm very like mom reliant still, but the ghost has
Yeah.
been really good. We have no bugs. I've never had a roach in this house. We've never had like any kind of like this is a big thing as a Floridian to be able to say. So I feel like the haunting is a very protective thing where I can say I have a house in Florida without roaches because the ghost knows I can't handle them.
I think we have both roaches. I know we have roaches in our place now, but I think we also have a ghost or two.
Does yours not like help with the house maintenance?
It once a ghost once threw a package of instant ramen at me, but that's about. I was like, does this ghost really know what I want to eat, or is it just racist?
I mean, you had already ordered the ramen, so I don't think we can necessarily put that onto the ghost.
Can't I? So, do you ever write about stuff like this? Like the almost this not a scary story so much, but like the fantastical aspect of
I
your writing.
try to, and then people will write to me and ask like what it's a metaphor for, and I feel really weird saying it's not a metaphor.
Metaphor for the ghost that's in my house that's keeping the roaches
Yes.
away.
What do you mean that the ghost is looking at your wedding photos? Like I have like a poem that like speaks about that specifically, and they're like, "Ah, this means so much." And I was like, "No, it's that's what happened. I kept seeing her look at my wedding photos." But I've been having trouble lately because there are so many like taboos in poetry of where you have to really earn a certain image, but the thing that's been happening lately is that I keep smelling pitas. They're like a type of jasmine in my living room, but I don't have it here. I usually only will bring roses in, and I don't even have those in right now. So I'll have these really strong fragrances that I'll smell throughout the house. And it's just, I don't know, it's a nice like sense of memory and like a specific space that's linked to for me. And to have it come into my house gives
Yeah,
me some comfort, especially lately.
yeah. My therapist gave me a book called Hallucinations by Oliver Sacks, and he talks about olfactory hallucinations, where a lot of people smell have hallucinate smells. And she gave me this book because while I was laying in bed some time ago, I smelled perfume right next to me, like, and then it
Mm.
was gone. It didn't even linger. It appeared and then it was gone. I was like, "What the?" But the other day, in the morning, laying in bed the same way, from the same spot where I smelled the perfume before, someone whispered in my ear, said, "I'm here." I've been like, this doesn't sound like this. She'd be the one that threw the robin at me, but who knows? Who knows about these racist ghosts?
Was it a perfume that you're familiar with?
No, not at all.
See, this is the thing. I like my mom is a little bit, and I talk about my mom a lot. I'm a little self conscious now of that, but she's a clinician, and so she'll tell me about things being possible as like hallucinations. But it seems unlikely that you'll completely manufacture a new perfume scent.
Yeah, yeah. So I was like, it was like one of those things of who was that? It wasn't a question of did I really experience that. It was more like who was that?
Just trying to identify.
Yeah, 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 yeah. What scares you?
Well, I'm scared of the dark still. I have a lot of things. All the childhood phobias I still have.
Yeah, dark cockroaches and what else?
I I have some. So this summer, I confronted like one of the fears I have. I always get nervous when I have like strangers knock at my door. I, and like the Jehovah's Witness are very like active in our neighborhood. And so I finally like decided, okay, I'm not going to hide because it's very hard for me to hide in my house. Like it's like windows all the way around.
That's
So like you
beautiful.
can see me when
Yeah.
when you come in, you can see me like working, and so it's very hard for me to lie and say that I'm not here in the house right now. So I answered the door. I apparently frightened them more than they frightened me though, and they never came back.
Maybe they saw the ghost standing right behind you.
No, like I'm usually pretty like I'm not mean about it. I'll usually just say like, "Hey, I don't think I'm really the audience for this," and like they'll try to do their spiel, but they seem to like be thrown off by that a little, and so they didn't come back. I
I
just
used
felt
to
like
say, I used to say, nah, I don't speak English, but thanks for coming.
I like that approach. It gives them an excuse, but then they also know that it's truly unwelcome.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I feel like I fear people more than anything else. And maybe it's because like I have like a lot of strong like superstitions I was taught as a child that make me feel make me feel pretty certain about like the planet, I guess. But people are the
Mhm.
one thing that there's no like superstition to protect you against. You can
Yeah,
protect yourself from ghost and from the aswang, and there are so many things you can do to like make yourself unattractive to those things, but there's nothing to make yourself unattractive to another human.
yeah. Damn. Which leads to my next question of which I've been sort of obsessed with lately is what is a monster? You know, I mean, you
You
mentioned
know,
calling for monsters out loud, but like at this point, like what are monsters?
when I was younger, I always wanted to be one. And like I still have this strange desire. I'm an only child, but I'm an only child with many siblings.
Hmm.
Like lost brothers and things who will come out of the woodwork. And I often will think of myself as like the evil twin. I think it makes me safer if I'm the evil twin than if I'm not the evil twin.
Yeah. No, I totally get it. I totally get it.
Like if you know that there are these like other doppelgangers out in the world who are going to come in and you don't know how they'll react to you, and usually they reacted very poorly. Like one of the brothers, he's much older than me, he's in his 50s. He sought me out and he called me the enemy. He had read one of my poems, and like I don't even think I do very like controversial poems, but he had decided very clearly from my writing that I was the enemy. And I like my natural defense though was really terrible. I mean, this is someone who was abandoned by his father when he was like 5, and like I tell him, you know, the only thing my father wants to know is how tall you are.
Wow.
I feel like there was a much more graceful way to handle this, and I didn't choose the higher road. And like I always think of like that monstrous streak within
Yeah.
myself.
You chose the savage road.
He was he was not tall enough for my father to have any interest in restoring their relationship. So
Oh my god. I feel mentally scarred by for him right now. But nice job.
I feel like there should be like a way to handle these kind of like aggressive interactions without having aggression, but I like my natural impulse is towards that. And I do think of like perhaps it is a bad reaction, like to feel yourself frightened and choose like to become the frightening thing, but
Yeah,
it
but
seems
like
like
you
the
said,
safest route.
yeah. Yeah, like you said, it's like a safety mechanism. That's why you want to be the evil monster. Because it's like safer that way, you know? Like
It was great in
before,
high school.
yeah. Oh really?
Like I was in middle school during 9/11 in South Carolina. And as a result, like a lot of the terminology was very confusing to my fellow classmates, but that didn't stop them. They just decided that anyone who wasn't white was a terrorist.
Hmm.
But it was also the time that The Ring was coming out. And so I still had the same hair I
Oh.
had now, and I like switched my wardrobe to like these white nightgown like dresses and like had like
Brush
just
your
the
hair
long hair.
forward like
That was my like escape through middle school and high school. I mean, it's still like the aesthetic I like now, but
hmm. Are there did you learn a lot of like old Filipino like folklore and legends when growing up?
I learned some of them. But I also know that my mom often will keep away like the more serious ones. Like I remember when my grandfather was dying, and so they had called over the abulado, and that was like the one point. And of course, I was interested, and I remember being sent upstairs, and my cousin and I we like started by trying to look down the staircase through like the slots, but then they figured out that we were doing that, and so we like went like from the roof to try and look back in from the outside. But I remember like some of the practices and like trying to understand what was going on, and like they're like I remember like an egg being cracked and like a very serious discussion about what he saw, but that they were very worried about us as the younger generation seeing that. And I remember like my grandfather, he used to work in the Hitachi factory. He also was a gambler, which is the side of him I didn't know, which is also why like he's the ghost that comes to me and my older cousin, but more so to me because he didn't get to be as good of a grandparent or a parent to anyone else. So I'm the like my household is the place where he can be proud about what he did. So that's why he's here the most often. But he would walk home from work and he would sometimes see there would be people coming back in from the fields, and he would see these horses standing on 2 legs. And
Whoa.
the like it was always like a frightening image to him, even if like in the retelling I realize it sounds laughable, but like recognizing the sincerity of his face, it was something that was a very frightening image to me. And like I always would ask like, what do you do? And he says the best thing is to, like, not to acknowledge it. If you just act like you can't see, it's safer than trying to interact and trying to open communication. which honestly isn't terrible advice when you're just trying to like survive in the world in any circumstance.
But especially when like horses on their two feet are trying to talk to you, then you're like, ignore it. Just ignore it. Yeah.
There
They,
are
they
like
don't,
frightening ones too. Like in the Los Banos area, there's we used to go there a lot for vacation, and like I remember one night hearing a baby crying, and I was still very young, and so babies are very exciting when you're also like just barely a baby and you have the authority of not being a baby. So
mm,
like as like a 5 year old, I'm like walking out to like find the younger baby to boss it around, which is very, very bad instinct. But I remember my older cousin chasing after me and explaining that you can't go after that baby. It's not a baby. So there's this kind of like this like crying. Oh, I
there's a
forget the name
movie
of it,
out
but
now with that legend.
like a yeah, like a crying duende. I think it's like a duende, but it's like a small, like very very smart monster that will lure you to it.
Yeah. So when you hear a crying baby, you're like, nope.
I feel like that's a bad reaction that you're supposed to still help, but I like I'm more careful now. I'm more
Yeah.
suspicious of it. I don't go after it with a kind of glee. This
Um,
might also be like the evolution of like my 5 year old self to like my older self now, but like I have some caution approaching children. Like I remember we always had a lot of like children who had like no identifiable parent in the library. And I always like this is something I actually taught to other people because it sounds like such a good best practice thing, but it's really because I'm superstitious. I say never touch a child no matter what the circumstance. There's nothing you cannot communicate without that can't be communicated through language. You should never touch the child. And of course, for me, it's because I'm kind of superstitious. But for everyone else, it sounded like a really good liability thing. So like it's
yeah.
now like a really like standard code.
Because they didn't hear the part where you're like, because they're shape shifting evil creatures. They're trying
What's the silent part? They don't need to know that. They just need to know the best practices to keep everyone safe, and that is you don't touch the child. And you know, it's also probably pretty good if it was a real human child not to touch that one either.
yeah.
There's no
You
situation
have
where you need
you're
to be
making
them.
points. You're making points is what I'm saying. Were there like legends you heard about in South Carolina growing up?
Not as much because we were the legend. Like the
You were
area
the
that I'm from, it's
yeah.
called Puddin Swamp, and it's renamed. Like everyone calls it Muzanville because the joke is always about like
Ah,
the history of like the Muzans as this once a very proud family that kind of did themselves in, and like they do seem kind of cursed though. Like just before they're 20, they're like absolutely gorgeous people, and as soon as they hit 30, they look ancient. It's like everything gets bottled up in like those first few years. And I remember my mom like watching me like as I turned 30, trying to see like if the white side would come. And she thought of it just as the white side, but like if it would win out or whether her genetics would win out. And she's like, my hair grays prematurely, but she thinks that that's an acceptable like transaction that I'm starting to get the Muzan hair late where it's turning bright white, but like the other features I have not lost from her. So she's okay with that kind of transaction of me being from that family.
I did not expect this wild conversation with you.
Like
I thought we were going to
I,
talk about a monster in a pot and a ghost, not this whole generational curse that turns 30-year-olds into the shriveled up people.
nightmares about that one though. Like I like there's this nightmare where I'm back in the old house and there's like the small house that my grandmother built on my father's side that I'm in. And whenever I'm in that house, I'm 15. But whenever I go to the other house, and like there's like this carriage house you go in between and you end up at like the old mansion, and then all of a sudden everything ages and it's kind of like horrifying. And so I don't go back. I don't go back to that land. It's it's like I guess every woman in my family has like this secret method to protect themselves from feeling like they're growing old. And like for me, I never go back to Puddin Swamp. My mother, she has this one person that she can never see again because she had made a promise when she was young. She set out, and it only works if you're truly in love and you have to truly have this sacrifice. But she told him that I'll only be gone for a day. And that was like she was 18 and she flew back, or she flew to the United States. And she looks incredibly young for all of like my childhood until maybe I think when I'm like 7, she starts to age again because she goes back to the Philippines and she does see him briefly, or he sees her, but she also sees that she's brought back a child, and so they don't meet. And then when I was 28, we went back again specifically to see him. And like now she can finally age. She's okay with it. And like that meeting was kind of her letting herself have this like ability to move forward in time, which, I always wanted to try it when I was younger, but I never loved anyone sincerely in my like teens and 20s. And now it just seems too late.
You're like, look at my gray hair. It's just too late.
I already have the gray hair. I'm just gonna lean into it. I won't try
It
to
looks
do it
amazing.
myself.
It looks amazing.
I'm really pleased with it. I'm gonna have like this little rogue stripe. I'm looking forward to aging. I also like when I first started working as a librarian, I remember the first advice my supervisor gave to me. She said, "If you're lucky, you'll age poorly." And that helped her like not get these really weird questions from people anymore. I don't know if that's going to really stop people from asking me weird questions, but I always like the possibility of not like having these strange interrogations at like the supermarket.
Oh my god. I have one last oddball question for you before we wrap up this amazing conversation, which is if a kid came up to you, right? Filipino like yourself. You're not gonna touch them. You're not gonna touch them. But they asked you, am I a monster? What would you say?
Do you want to be?
Hmm. Yeah.
I think we get to pick. I really do. I've been called a lot of things. I remember my first year in college, my friends and I thought it'd be exciting to go to Walmart and get a rotisserie chicken, like a whole chicken to sit down and eat. We were really hungry. It was just that kind of time in college. And I remember waiting for a bus and a man approaching me very upset because I had taken his leg during the war. I never asked him which war. And like that was a moment where I could choose to like not be frightening or where I could lean into it. And 17, 18-year-old Asa, she leaned into it. I've clearly chosen the path of monstrosity and that I don't think it has to be something terrible. But I also think
Yeah.
it's okay to like just tell children that they can choose. If it's something that is horrifying to them, you
Yeah.
can choose to redefine yourself, but you don't have to.
Yeah. That was a beautiful answer. Thank you. And thank you for joining me to have this chat. I've missed you. I'm missing your
I
face.
missed you too. I'm so
Yeah.
glad to see you.
Yeah. And thank you everyone for tuning in. Asa Drake, asaldrake.com. Check it out. Her chapbook, everything. And Monster in a Pot.
I do
This
recommend it. It's a really good film, even if you don't have subtitles.
and Filipino Thor. That was like
For
just
part
that's just
two, I
bonus.
don't
Yeah.
remember the name of the double feature. Yeah,
Yeah, that's just bonus. Filipino Thor is just bonus.
it's just double.
Yeah. We look forward to having you join us again for the next episode. So peace out, everyone. Thanks, Asa. Don't leave.
Thank you.
Yeah, don't leave yet. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, yes. Sorry, I realized after the fact that would have effects, lasting effects.
No.
They had a 5-second timer, so it was a very long smile.
Yeah. So I'll just say, hey, on the next episode of Are You There, Ghost? Oh, there's the photo. Oh, I'll just say on this next episode of Are You There, Ghost? I'm talking to Asa Drake, and then I'll be like, Asa, what are we talking about? And You just say we're talking about this, this, and this, like real quick, like three topics
Okay.
that we discussed, but like, all right, cool. On the next episode of Are You There, Ghost? It's me, Chiwan. I'm talking to the wonderful Asa Drake. Asa, what are we talking about? Ooh, ghost inheritance. Can't wait. Great.